she has brought millions. I wouldn't be surprised if it's billions of eyes onto the W and onto women's sports. Mm-hmm. She is a Kobe Bryant. And that's how Diana was. That's how Sue was. Like, we've had these types of people, but this is just bigger because the media platform is bigger than it ever has been. I don't have an ego, so I'm able to just tell the truth. Like, if it was someone else, I'd be like, yeah, like Angel Reese, she's also brought millions of fans. You know what I mean? I think Caitlyn has brought way more, but I also think she has too. Like, I'm just not naive, and I might be blonde, but I'm not fucking dumb. People who say I'm a clout chaser, no, I'm just being honest about why the league is where it is at. Give the girls the flowers, like give it to them. They deserve it.
The truth is finally coming out, and it's coming from someone who's never been afraid to speak her mind. Sophie Cunningham has had enough. She's tired of watching the WNBA disrespect the very player who saved their league from the brink of irrelevance, and this time, she's not holding back.
Cunningham, if it wasn't for Sophie Cunningham's podcast, I never would have had this eureka moment. Sophie Cunningham came to the Indiana Fever in the offseason. She's been taking full advantage of every opportunity she's gotten. An opportunity on the court, ballin'. An opportunity to protect Caitlin Clark, did that. Off the court, endorsement deals. Off the court, advertisers are falling in love with her. We got Colin Cowherd saying, hey, Sophie, you want your own podcast? Sophie Cunningham says, sure, I'll take my own podcast. And what has Sophie Cunningham been doing on this podcast? Letting us in on some secrets? Yeah, love that. Pulling back the curtain on some time? Yeah, I love that too.
But what makes her defense of Caitlin Clark so powerful isn't just what she's saying, it's who's saying it and why she's been standing up for Clark long before it became popular to do so. Now, there's a new face in the WNBA who refuses to stay silent, and that's Sophie Cunningham.
Why does everybody hate Caitlin Clark? And do you hate Caitlin Clark? Come on, talk
dude.
to me.
Absolutely not. I think that she's a gem. I didn't know her, but All-Star Weekend, we kind of bantered back and forth a little bit. And she's lovely. She has a lot of pressure on her shoulders. And, I think a lot of people always have a lot to say, with people they don't even know or shoes they've never been in. And for me, I think she's handling the pressure very well. She's doing a lot of great things for women's basketball. And I'm a fan. Like, I would love.
While others were too afraid to admit what was happening right in front of them, Sophie saw the bigger picture. She recognized Clark's potential when the league was too blinded by jealousy and competitive rivalry to appreciate it. This wasn't just another Johnny-come-lately jumping on the Caitlin Clark bandwagon for clout or clicks. No, this was Sophie Cunningham, the same woman who praised Clark when her own Phoenix Mercury teammates were plotting against her behind closed doors. She knew what Clark was bringing to the league before anyone else had the courage to admit it.
Ultimately, when you see all this vitriol of people who cannot stand her, it's like, okay, well, what has she done wrong?
Yeah.
She's a great basketball player, so you might not think it's fair that she's the face of the league, and that's understandable because there have been fantastic players in the WNBA for a long time. But Caitlin didn't disparage them. She just came in and kind of changed the game with her style. So I think it's one of those things where you have to say, okay, maybe I don't think it's fair based on the previous women who have been in this league, but it's not Caitlin's fault. All she's done is elevate the game for all of us. And I think instead of being pissed off about that, you should be appreciative of that and say, maybe it's not fair, but it's not your fault.
And I get other players, like they've worked hard and they've worked to build this league up over their time. And all of a sudden this young player comes in and now all the attention is on her. And
Sophie Cunningham's defense of Caitlin Clark isn't new. She saw Clark's star potential before anyone else even realized what was happening. When Sophie called out the WNBA for their disrespect of Clark, it was an early sign that the league was headed down a dangerous path, one of jealousy, fear, and missed opportunities. Sophie Cunningham has never been someone to shy away from controversy. She wasn't one of the many who watched from the sidelines as Caitlin Clark took the league by storm.
But time and time again, Sophie Cunningham has repeatedly been calling out the officiating. And what's one thing the WNBA holds over these players' heads? Ooh, I'm going to fine you. Ooh, if you call out the officiating, I'm going to fine you. The players say, no, I can't afford that. So they keep it all hush-hush. But Sophie Cunningham, she's sitting on a pile of money. So when Kathy Engelbert hears her say something about the referees, Kathy says, here's a fine. And Sophie says, okay, here's payment.
From the beginning, Sophie recognized Clark's game-changing potential, not just as a player, but as someone who could transform the WNBA's image on a global scale. But it wasn't just about basketball for Sophie, it was about the future of women's professional sports. While others hesitated to speak up, Sophie was already voicing her admiration for Clark, praising her when many of her peers were still looking the other way.
So the Fever saw it coming. They went and got Sophie Cunningham, 6-year-old black belt. This is what the Bulls did with Charles Oakley to protect Michael Jordan. And I said this last year several times. The WNBA is not a vertical league. Their players can't jump over each other to score like the NBA. It's a horizontal chippy league. And you didn't watch the NBA for the last 10 to 12 years. It has always been physical and always been chippy. You get into a lot of collisions because there's no Ja Morant here. There's no Ant Edwards. They don't jump over. It's a horizontal physical league. And Caitlin Clark now is like kerosene to the physicality flame. So you have physicality in this league, and now you get this flashy player, and they don't know how to officiate her, they don't know how to defend her.
When the WNBA All-Star voting took place, the results were stunning. Despite Caitlin Clark leading the entire league with over 1.2 million fan votes, she was ranked a mere 9th among guards. Sophie saw the writing on the wall. This wasn't a mistake. It was a reflection of something deeply wrong within the league.
I mean, you know, she has changed our game in the best possible way in every way. And so just to be alongside of her and maybe relieve the pressure, being able to shoot and spread the court for her to go do her thing. She's still young, and I think that I've been taken under, Diana took me under her wing, and I've learned a lot from her. And now I hope to kind of do the same for Caitlin if she wants it. I just think the relationship piece is huge. And when you're trying to do something great, it takes everybody. And so I want her to go do her thing, and anything she needs from me, I'm going to be here. But again, I think that like just the competitor that I am, I'm fierce, I'm sassy. I stick up for my teammates, I stick up for myself.
Fans were seeing the truth, but the WNBA seemed to be working overtime to ignore it. Sophie wasn't about to let that slide. She called out the league for what it was: jealousy. Dick Vitale, the legendary basketball commentator, called it pure jealousy, and Sophie couldn't agree more. But she wasn't just reacting to a single vote. Sophie had been speaking up about this issue long before it became obvious to everyone else.
Like, I know the talks that Phoenix had in the locker room of like, no, we're going to prove her, we're going to show her what the W really is. You know what I mean? And like, I get it to a certain extent. And like every rookie coming into the league, that's how you're going to treat them. But there's just more for her. So it's her second year. And like now being on her team and like seeing it, I'm like, what are people doing? Like, actually it's just too much. And like, it's just, I'm over. And if I'm saying it's too much, then it's probably too much.
No, that's so fair.
Like, that's fair, right?
Yeah.
The numbers speak for themselves. Caitlin Clark was pulling in 2.7 million viewers for a single game, something the WNBA hadn't seen in decades. That's the kind of attention every league dreams of. But what did the WNBA do with that attention? Instead of building on it, they let it slip away. And worse, they allowed their own players to undermine Clark at every turn. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a clear sign of the deep-seated issues within the league. Despite Clark's fan votes and unprecedented viewership numbers, some players within the WNBA were actively working to tear her down. Dick Vitale called it like he saw it: pure jealousy. And it was hard to argue with him.
It just feels like people are jealous of this new little wave of...
They are, but I just hate that because like, this is what we've always wanted as a league. So like, who cares who gets the credit? And if you're smart, you're making money off of them.
Yeah.
Like you were literally making money from the viewership.
And what she made the chirp was about how she didn't help plan the fucking
Who cares?
shirts.
Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, I just hate when like people do stuff to get, it's like clickbait.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and there's so much clickbait, especially surrounding Caitlin. And so like, it's just like, just be nice. Like, why can't people just be nice?
Yeah.
That's what I don't, coming from the girl who
I was just saying, we just talked for 2 hours
down.
about how you fucking beat someone up.
Just be nice. It's not that hard.
The WNBA had a chance to embrace Clark's star power and build on it. Instead, they seemed to resist the very thing that could save them. It wasn't just about basketball, it was about power, influence, and who could control the narrative. But Sophie Cunningham was different. She wasn't going to sit back and let jealousy ruin the opportunity that Clark represented for the entire league. She had seen this kind of behavior before, and she wasn't going to let it continue unchecked. Sophie Cunningham isn't just a player, she's a businesswoman, and she understands that the WNBA's future depends on making the right decisions now.
The impact that Caitlin has, that's where players would be wise to kind of uplift Caitlin even more, or try and catapult her, because it only does wonders for the league. Like, they are able to wear "pay me what you owe me" shirts because they're getting a new TV rights deal because of Caitlin Clark. So
Right.
like there's so many sides to this, but like at the end of the day, it's what's best for the league and it's what's best for these players individually if Caitlin Clark kind of continues to build.
What makes her stance so powerful isn't just her loyalty to Clark, it's her clear understanding of what's at stake for the league itself. Sophie doesn't just see Caitlin Clark as a great basketball player. She sees her as an asset that could transform the WNBA and women's sports in general. When Clark's games were drawing 2.7 million viewers, it wasn't just a fluke, it was a clear sign of her influence, and Sophie knew that the WNBA couldn't afford to let that moment slip away. Clark wasn't just bringing attention to the league, she was bringing in money, fans, and opportunities that the WNBA had never seen before. And yet, instead of protecting that, the league seemed to be doing everything in its power to undermine it. Sophie understood that the future of the WNBA wasn't just about basketball, it was about business. The league was on the cusp of something historic, something that could change the game for women's professional sports forever. But they needed to get out of their own way. Sophie saw the numbers. Clark's games were breaking records, with Fever games averaging over 1.1 million viewers compared to the mere 394,000 for other WNBA matchups. This was the future, and the league had a choice: either embrace it and build on it, or continue to fight it and risk losing everything.
Oh, not last week, a couple days ago, when Caitlin Clark got destroyed, her girl Sophie came to her defense, and this was the most beast mode thing that I've seen a woman do in WNBA history. I'm not for the violence, you know what I'm saying? But I am for you saying, if y'all want to get busy out here, we can get busy out here. And I know we got some clips of Sophie outside of basketball going to the game. So I just want to put the whole picture together, right? Good at basketball. She's fighting back for Caitlin Clark. And then, she showed up to the games.
When Caitlin Clark was attacked by J.C. Sheldon and then shoved to the ground by Marina Mabrey, the referees, instead of protecting Clark, handed her a technical foul while her aggressors received only minimal punishment. Sophie knew this wasn't just an isolated incident, it was part of a larger pattern of disrespect. Sophie couldn't stay silent any longer. She grabbed Sheldon and pulled her to the ground in retaliation, and that moment would change everything. Within 24 hours, Sophie's social media following skyrocketed from hundreds of thousands to over 1.2 million across multiple platforms. This wasn't just about fame, it was about vindication. Finally, someone was standing up for what was right, and the fans responded with overwhelming support. Sophie wasn't just defending Caitlin Clark, she was defending the very future of women's professional basketball. Her decision to speak up, when so many others stayed silent, turned her into a voice of reason in a league full of toxic politics. Sophie didn't act for clout or attention, she acted because it was the right thing to do, and in doing so she unlocked a wave of new opportunities, proving that integrity in the business world can be just as valuable as skill on the court. Sophie was clear, she didn't act to go viral. "I didn't do that for clickbait," she explained. "I stand up for my teammates," and yet despite her noble intentions, her stance garnered attention and the market responded. Fresh brand deals, new partnerships, and a successful podcast followed, and Sophie was quickly establishing herself as a leading voice in the WNBA and beyond. It was a testament to the power of doing what's right, even when it's difficult. The fan response was equally telling. Sophie didn't just gain followers because of the altercation, she gained respect. Fans weren't just celebrating her for standing up for Clark, they were celebrating her for having the courage to stand up against a league that had been too afraid to make the hard decisions. Sophie's rise wasn't just about gaining fame, it was about tapping into a demand for change that had been simmering beneath the surface.
So the Fever saw it coming. They went and got Sophie Cunningham, 6-year-old black belt. This is what the Bulls did with Charles Oakley to protect Michael Jordan. And I said this last year several times. The WNBA is not a vertical league. Their players can't jump over each other to score like the NBA. It's a horizontal chippy league. And you didn't watch the NBA for the last 10 to 12 years. It has always been physical and always been chippy. You get into a lot of collisions because there's no Ja Morant here. There's no Ant Edwards. They don't jump over. It's a horizontal physical league. And Caitlin Clark now is like kerosene to the physicality flame. So you have physicality in this league, and now you get this flashy player, and they don't know how to officiate her, they don't know how to defend her.
The WNBA made a critical mistake when they chose to prioritize maintaining the status quo over fostering true excellence. Sophie Cunningham understood that difference, and it's what separates her from the rest of the league. Brontrans, the WNBA's leadership, had an opportunity to embrace change, but instead, they chose to manage optics and avoid confrontation. Sophie Cunningham saw things differently. She didn't just want the league to survive, she wanted it to thrive, and thriving meant embracing excellence, even if that meant shaking things up a bit. Clark's rise wasn't something to be feared, it was something to be celebrated. But the WNBA couldn't get out of its own way. It had become so focused on maintaining a certain image that it was willing to undermine the very thing that could have changed the game forever. While the league focused on managing public relations, Sophie focused on what truly mattered, protecting Clark and promoting excellence. She stood as a defender of talent, someone who wasn't afraid to call out the league when it needed to hear the truth. Sophie Cunningham's decision to leave the Phoenix Mercury wasn't just about seeking a new team, it was about finding an organization that understood her vision for the future of the WNBA. Behind closed doors, the Mercury's locker room was a breeding ground for toxicity. Sophie revealed that, instead of supporting Caitlin Clark, her Phoenix teammates were plotting against her. Instead of celebrating Clark's arrival, they saw her as a threat, something to be crushed rather than nurtured. This was a bitter pill for Sophie to swallow, especially given how much potential Clark brought to the team. But it wasn't just about Clark, it was about the direction the entire league was headed. Sophie could no longer stay in an environment where players were more interested in tearing each other down than building something together. Leaving the Mercury wasn't easy, but Sophie knew it was the only way to be true to herself and her vision for the WNBA. She found a team and a culture that supported her beliefs, and from that point on, she became an even louder voice for what the league needed to do to survive.
The way that Caitlin thinks of the game, that's a really close second. And so they're always 10 plays ahead of everyone. They're always on a whole different wavelength. And I'm just happy that I got my time with Gigi. I love her to death. I'm so excited to watch her docuseries. I think she deserves the world and more. I know she's enjoying retirement, probably going crazy because she's also psycho. And I've said that multiple times. But it's been fun to be a sponge and then kind of talking with Caitlin, just kind of seeing that she's at the beginning of her professional career, but there's a lot of similarities there.
Sophie Cunningham is done being patient. She's called out the WNBA's failures, and now she's waiting to see whether the league will make the changes necessary to survive. For years, the WNBA has struggled with finding its identity and maintaining its relevance in the global sports market. Sophie Cunningham sees the solution clearly. Embrace the excellence that players like Caitlin Clark bring to the table and build on it. Stop undermining your most valuable assets. Celebrate success. Protect your stars. The WNBA has a choice to make. Will they continue down the same path of jealousy, mediocrity, and missed opportunities, or will they finally listen to voices like Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark and change the course of the league's future? Only time will tell, but one thing is for sure, Sophie Cunningham is done waiting for change. Now it's up to the league to decide whether they're ready for it. Sophie Cunningham has stood up for Caitlin Clark, not just because she's a teammate, but because she understands what's at stake. The WNBA needs to decide whether it wants to continue on its current path or embrace the opportunity for growth, talent, and success that Clark represents. Sophie has made her choice. Now it's time for the league to make theirs. Ronretz, the clock is ticking. Will the WNBA listen, or will it let its greatest opportunity slip away? Drop your thoughts below. Do you agree with Sophie? Should the WNBA celebrate its stars or continue to sabotage its own future?